So today I'm going to be putting in a dock. It's going to be for either canoe, paddle boat, or kayak. And I decided to put it parallel to the shore. The reason being that although the water is calm right now, in the spring it can be a real torrent. And I'm afraid that if I had this sticking straight out from the shore, the water may just wash it away. I have no idea. I also decided to make it 8 feet long, just so that when I'm using the canoe, I can have these posts, which are set, I don't know, maybe 6 feet apart. I can have them about where the seats are in the canoe, so it's easy for, if you have 2 people in the canoe, each person can stand up, grab onto a post right from their seats, grab onto the post and get out onto the dock. I started by just trying to put the post in the ground, and that didn't work. What I needed to do was to have a point on the post. So if I had decided to take this out into the creek 8 feet, I would have a real problem, because the bottom is so soft that, first of all, I wouldn't be able to reach to the top of an 8-foot post in order to knock it down. These posts started out to be 6 feet long, and if I had started with an 8-foot post and if I was out in the creek, then I wouldn't be able to reach up there with the hammer and nail it or knock it down. Right now I'm using an old pallet, and although it's not ideal, at least it gives me something to sit on or stand on in order to knock these down. So as I said, these started out at 6 feet. I got a 12-foot 2x12, cut it in half, and I knocked it down, so that's what you have. The next thing I did was I built the frame, and I decided to put the ends of it, the 2x4 on the inside, and I'll explain why after I'm starting to put the deck on. So built the frame, squared it by measuring the diagonal from one corner to the other, made sure both sides were identical. Then I brought it out and decided where I was going to put it. In this case, I wanted it above the water, so it's not always sitting in the water. In the wintertime, this is going to be covered with water, but in the summertime, at least it's not there. Decided where I wanted it, lifted one side up, put the clamp on, drilled one hole through it, and put a 6-inch bolt through it. Then I went to the other side, did the same thing, lifted it up, leveled it off. This time I put the 2 bolts through it, because that was all I needed to do to support it. So I've got 2 bolts on each end. At this point, I'm ready to start putting these. This is deadly. I'm ready to start putting these in. Again, an 8-foot that I cut in half. I thought, because I don't want a high post on this side, so I figured, well, maybe a 2-footer will do. Well, I was wrong. This just completely sank in the mud, and I had nothing to attach it to, so the 2-footer is no good. So I went with the 8-footer. And so what I'm going to do at this point, I start with a small hammer because it gives me something to hold on to. And now, to determine where I want this, I simply measure this over so it was the same as that side there. The next thing I have to do is lift this up. It doesn't have to be level, but lift it up to make sure that when I'm putting this in, it's going to be touching it. All right, so that's a good spot where it is right there. So the next thing I do is I nail this in, or pound this in, and you see how soft this is. And imagine if you were out 8 feet trying to do this. if I don't have anything to stand here, I'm going to be sinking up to my knees. Alright, I won't bore you with pounding this thing in as far as I can. So, I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, pound it in, and then I'll come back to you and show you what I'm doing next. Okay, thought I'd turn the camera on for a minute, show you where I'm at. What I'm doing now is laying the deck boards down, and all I'm doing is spacing them with a bolt, the big washer, so they don't slip through. Alright, so what I've done is the dock is 3 feet wide, but I didn't want to have the 2x4 right at the very edge, and I didn't want to have the post sticking out past the dock itself. This way, with a post inset, you're able to just bring the canoe, paddle boat, whatever, right up to the dock without having a post in the a post in your way. So because of that, although the dock's 36 inches wide, obviously this frame isn't 36 inches wide. I had to bring it back the distance so that these would overhang, and then so in other words, another 3.5 inches, and then I wanted about another inch out of that, so about another 5 inches. So when you're cutting your frame, you have to take that into consideration, because this end board here can't be 3 feet if your dock is 3 feet, and you want to have your posts set inside the deck boards. So this is going to have to be shorter by at least at least the distance of your boards. In this case, my boards were, or my posts are 3.5 inches. So that board is 3.5 plus probably another inch. I'm not sure. So I'm just going to say it's probably about 4.5 to 5 inches narrower than the 3-foot boards. And I use the 3-foot boards because that seems to be the most economical. You can buy a 16-foot one of these deck boards, 16 feet, and if you get it at Home Depot or whatever, just have them cut it down to 6 feet, and then just cut that in half, so 3. So you get three of the 6-footers out of it, and then you have one left over. So it's more economical than buying, let's say, an 8-footer and cutting 6 feet off of it. Now you've wasted 2 feet of it. If they have 6-foot ones at the store, of course you can do that. But it may be more expensive to buy a 6-foot than it is a 16-foot. But anyhow, that's where I am right now. Just putting these down. This mud is really terrible. You just sink right into it. And so after I get things squared away in the front, and what I'm doing is I put a level against it to make sure that I'm sorry about the camera. Put a level here just to make sure that I'm coming to where I want to come, and not hanging over an inch or an inch more than I want to. Once I have that in, once I have my spacers in, I nail it. Yep, out of nails. So anyhow, I'll get back to you after I get a little more of it done and show you what it's looking like. Okay, it's done. It took probably a good 8 hours to do. The only thing left at this point is to cut the posts off, because obviously they're pretty smashed up from using a sledgehammer on them. And I'm going to leave these long, as I said before, so when you're getting out of the canoe, you can have something to grab onto. The ones in the back, these I'm going to cut down a little shorter. I am going to keep these a little, not quite at the deck, because I'm anticipating this actually sinking at some point, in which case all I'll have to do is take off one of the deck boards, take off the bolts, lift the whole frame up, do it again. So if it doesn't sink, well, that's good. So anyhow, I didn't mention, but I'm sure it's obvious, all this wood is pressure treated lumber. The nails are galvanized nails. If this was a deck on a house, I'd be using screws, but it's not. So all I got to do at this point is to cut these posts off, and then I'll be done. Okay, it's all done. It was done for about $75. I used 3 16-foot boards for the deck and 1 8-foot, only because I had the 8-foot there. 3 8-foot 2x4s. The 4x4 post, that depends on how deep you're going to put them in the ground. I used a 12-foot, cut it in half, and a 4-foot, cut it in half. And 8 6-inch bolts. I think they were 5/16. If you get them at Ace Hardware, they're about $2.25 each. If you get the Tractor Supply, you get all 8 of them. Washers, 16 washers, and nuts for $3. So I think if you have a Tractor Supply near you, that's the way to go. Next thing I'm going to be doing is getting a cover for the canoe. Right now it's raining a little, so I'm going to have to pull it back up and tip it over so it doesn't fill with water. But I will be getting a cover for the canoe, and I'll do a review on that too. Anyhow, there it is. All in all, it took a long day to do it. You know, a little more than 8 hours, probably closer to 10 hours to get it all done. But it's solid. Oops, very solid. Not going to go anywhere. And I got plenty of water underneath it to dock it with too. So all in all, I think it was a good project. So I hope this helps you. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comments. And like and subscribe, as they say. Have a good one.